All right, so we're gonna do the next entry, my next video in my new series. This is on a very interesting topic. Thought a little bit about what my next topic would be. Like I said, this channel is gonna be about a variety of things: politics, history, religion, culture, whatever. So, I believe all these things are interconnected. So I'm going to start with a topic that I believe is kind of a good segue into all of them. So without further ado, this topic is on the language families of the world. So how does that connect? Well, language is related to culture. Language is probably the biggest determining factor in, what ethnicity is. What ethnicity one belongs to is largely based upon language, what language they speak or their native language and whatnot. And a lot of cultures that maybe, that are considered different cultures may be considered related. So there might be, different ethnicities, but they're related ethnicities. And a lot of times they're related through language. These languages are in some way connected. They might not be the same language, but they came from a certain common origin. They have certain similarities in how they sound and words and whatnot. So that is why we are talking about language families, to see how all these languages and how the cultures of the world are connected and which ones are connected to one another. So, without further ado, I believe we will start with the biggest language family in the world, and that is the Indo-European language family. So, what languages belong to the Indo-European language family? Well, let's listen to the name, Indo-European. So pretty much these are the languages of Europe, nearly all of Europe, as well as northern India. And also included are the languages of greater Iran. So that includes Iran, Afghanistan, some parts of Central Asia. So, where should we begin? I guess we'll just start, for simplicity, we'll start from going from west to east. So we'll start with the languages in Europe. So, we're going to first start. So, of course, I didn't preface this, but all language families are divided into subgroups. So there's different groups within a larger language family. So what are the groups? What are some of the groups of languages? So the major groups in the European language family subgroups are the Germanic languages. That would include English, German, Dutch, Swedish, Norwegian, Icelandic, Danish. Okay. It would also include the Romance language family. So Romance languages are, of course, as the name sounds, languages that are, related to Rome, right? These are languages that are descended from Latin. So that would include Italian, Spanish, French, Portuguese, and even, this one might kind of not really sound like it really belongs to that group, but Romanian. Okay, Romania was, at one point part of the Roman Empire, and they did speak Latin there. So it is related. Another language group within the Indo-European language family is the Slavic languages. So that includes Russian, Ukrainian, Belarusian, Polish, Czech, Slovak, Slovenian, Croatian, or I should rather say Serbian, and the various different kind of sub languages of Serbian, which would also include Croatian and Bosnian. So that is the Slavic language family. There's also Greek, which is what they would call like an isolate. So it's in its own group, but it's part of the larger Indo-European language family. So let's go a little further more east. You also have Armenian, which is another isolate. It's kind of its own language, its own group, its own branch, right? But it's part of the larger Indo-European language family. And then, now going furthest east, we have the Indo-Iranian language family. Now, this is a very old group. It kind of split from the rest of the groups very early. It was one of the first to split. And kind of just to give you a little background, they say that the origin of the Indo-European language family originated from around modern-day Ukraine, parts of Russia near Ukraine. So the Indo-Iranian language family split when who would become the speakers of the languages in that family immigrated east, and gradually over the course of time came to inhabit Iran, and the greater Iran, also including Afghanistan, Tajikistan, parts of Uzbekistan, as well as northern India. So, being that it's a really old group, this group can even be split into two groups. So that would split into, as the name says, Indo-Iranian. So you have the Indo-Aryan, the languages of northern India, as well as Pakistan and Bangladesh, and the Iranian branch, which would include, of course, Iran, as well as Afghanistan, Tajikistan, and other nearby parts of the Middle East. So, within the Iranian branch, you have, of course, Persian, or otherwise known as Farsi. You have Kurdish. We hear a lot about the Kurds these days. Who inhabit, of course, parts of Iran, Iraq, and Turkey, as well as small parts of Syria. And then you have various other, regional languages of Iran, such as Lori, Gilaki, Mazandarani, Baluchi, and also includes the language, one of the main, probably the largest language of Afghanistan, or the language of the largest ethnic group in Afghanistan, Pashto. So those are probably the major languages of the Iranian branch of the Indo-Iranian branch of the Indo-European language family. Now let's go to the Indo-Aryan branch. That would include Hindi, the most common language in India, as well as the regional languages of Punjabi, Gujarati, the language from Pakistan of Sindhi. It would include Bengali, spoken in India and Bangladesh, Assamese, Kashmiri from the region of Kashmir. And those are probably the majority of the main languages of the Indo-Aryan branch, at least the ones that come to my mind right now. So yeah, that is the Indo-European language family. And there are also a few extinct groups. There's the Hittite language, the Hittite branch of the ancient Hittite people who lived in modern-day Turkey, who actually, that was, I believe, if I'm correct, the first branch to split off from the general Indo-European language, the Proto-Indo-European language, which means that was kind of like the core language that all these other languages descended from. So Hittite was the oldest, the first to split off. And then also you have another branch, the Tocharian branch, which was spoken by a group of people known, in Western, academia as the Tocharians. And they inhabited the Tarim Basin in what is the Xinjiang province of modern-day China. That's the province in the far west of China, far northwest. It's kind of like a frontier province. So yeah, That is the Indo-European language family. And that is the biggest language family with the most speakers in the world. Okay, we are now going to talk about the second largest language family in the world, and that is the Niger-Congo language family. So the Niger-Congo language family is believed to have originated in the modern-day country of Cameroon in, central Western Africa. And this language family, the Niger-Congo language family, can pretty much be split up as follows. So you have a bunch of kind of small languages, small groups, kind of individual, small languages and groups. And then you have one very large branch or very large group within this language family, which pretty much accounts for could very well be said to account for the vast majority of languages within this language family. So that large group within this language family of the Niger-Congo language family is the Bantu branch of the Niger-Congo language family. And that includes a wide variety of languages in Central, Eastern, and even parts of Southern Africa. And that would include probably the biggest or most well-known language within this language family would be Swahili, spoken on the coast of East Africa in the countries of Kenya, Uganda, spoken to some degree in Rwanda, spoken in Tanzania. So that is the language of Swahili. And that is the biggest language in the Bantu branch, or probably the most well-known language in the Bantu branch of the Niger-Congo language family. And then amongst the smaller languages and smaller groups, per se, that would not fit within the Bantu branch of this language family would include the language of Yoruba, spoken in Nigeria, in West Africa, and a lot of these languages, or maybe probably the majority, are located in West Africa. So you have the Yoruba language spoken in Nigeria. You also have the language of Ewe, spelled E-W-E, spoken in the country of Togo. You also have the language of Wolof, spoken in the country of Senegal. So these are just a few of these languages, amongst others, that are of the languages within the Niger-Congo language family that do not fit within the largest group of the Bantu branch. So that is the Niger-Congo language family. After that, the next biggest language family is the Sino-Tibetan language family. So that is believed to have originated around north central eastern China, if I'm correct, where of course Chinese civilization originated. I could be wrong, so forgive me if that's not 100% accurate. So that includes the name is Sino-Tibetan. So what would that lead us to believe? Sino means Chinese. So Chinese, and then Tibetan, of course, Tibet, right? So the first branch is the Sinaitic branch. So that would pretty much include all of the Chinese languages. So that would be Mandarin, Cantonese, Wu, and those are the major ones that come to mind right now. In the other branch, you would have the Tibeto-Burman. So what does that name kind of tell us? Tibet, obviously, and Burman, Burmese, Burma, now known as Myanmar. So let's move to another branch. The next branch is the Afro-Asiatic language family. Now, this language is believed by linguists and historians and whatnot to have this language family is believed to have originated in what is modern day Ethiopia. And this language family has a few different branches, but it is most famous for including one of the, I believe it's definitely the top 5, one of the top 5 most widely spoken languages in the world, and that is Arabic. So this language family includes the branches of Semitic, which is the largest branch, which, like I said, the largest language included in there is Arabic. And it also includes another, widely known language, and that is Hebrew, which a lot of people kind of may not be aware of, but of course, based upon that, Arabic and Hebrew are almost like cousin languages. So if you want to think about things in terms of ethnolinguistics, that would mean that the Arabs and Jews are cousins. So that might be a little bit surprising to some people. And it also includes the modern language of Syriac, which is, it's not very widely spoken. It's spoken primarily among the Assyrian community, based in modern day Iraq. But it is the modern day descendant of the Aramaic language, which was once one of the most widely spoken languages in the world, and it is famous for being the language spoken by Jesus. And then it includes some other languages that are extinct. Some of the Proto-South Arabian languages, the languages that were once spoken in modern-day Yemen. It includes a language called Ugaritic, which I actually personally don't know a whole lot about. It also includes the major languages of Ethiopia, such as Amharic, Tigray, and Tigrinya. Okay, so that is the Semitic branch. And then another branch within the language. That's probably the only major a branch that has any major languages that are spoken today or widely spoken. It also includes the Cushitic branch, which includes another language that's pretty well spoken, Somali, the Somali language, Oromo. It's spoken. It's another language spoken in Ethiopia. Okay, so that is the Cushitic branch. Then another branch of the Afro-Asiatic family would be the Berber branch of the Berber people, who are also known as the Amazigh people, and they actually recently there's been a movement to try to really popularize that name for themselves, which is kind of more of like a local name rather than Berber, which comes from the West and actually is derived from the term barbarian. So you can see why they don't really like that name a whole lot. But so the Berber branch includes it. At one point, included a lot of different languages. Most of them, the speakers of those languages kind of assimilated into the Arabic culture and now speak Arabic. But the last Berber language that is pretty widely spoken today is the Tuareg language, which some of you may know because I believe it was a Volkswagen car named after them called the Tuareg car. So, and then we have the Egyptian branch, which included the ancient language of Egyptian in its various forms, and includes now to this day Coptic, of the Coptic community in Egypt, which accounts for about 10% of the Egyptian population, and it is the modern day descendant of ancient Egyptian, Coptic. There is one other branch of the Afro-Asiatic language family, and that is the Chadic branch, which, as the name indicates, includes languages that I believe, as the name would dictate, are located in Chad, but the most common language in this family is actually Hausa, which kind of geographically located a little bit further away from the rest of them. It's located more in West Africa. That is the Afro-Asiatic language family.